I think we're good. Oh, and Joanne's in there too. Yes, we are live, dude. Take it away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the 365 Message Center Show. Today, we're talking about a wonderful aspect coming to SharePoint in Office 365, where Microsoft's going to change your classic team site homepages to a modern page. We're also going to talk about what's in preview now for advanced eDiscovery and as far as your tenant reports and dashboards. And oh, by the way, we now have a legal hold for Microsoft Teams private channels. Roll the intro. Hello, everyone. Hello, Daryl.
Hey, welcome to the 365 Message Center Show, where we plan for change, prevent or fix, and help you stay informed. Daniel, it's a good day today. It's a Monday for you.
Yes, it's a Monday and a Tuesday for you as well. Thank you for doing the show last week, Daryl. Without me, I appreciate you being able to fly solo and.
How did I do? Chat room, Joanne, Stephen, Phil, Ian. How did I do?
Be kind to people.
Yeah. I know you respond in 30 seconds or more, so that's okay. You're in the buffer zone.
No, you did a great job. I checked it out, and so thank you for doing that. But I'm glad to be back, and we've got some doozies. Now, I will say I really wanted to be there last week because wow, you had a doozy of a message last week about Microsoft changing the homepage for everyone, not just in. We're not talking about Edge. We're talking about Chrome
Default
and
browser.
future Firefox. So yeah, changing your default search to Bing, whether you want to or not. And I'm not seeing any movement on that this week, unfortunately, because I really do think Microsoft should back off of that. That's it's kind of a big deal. But anyway,
well, is the discussion still going in the community? Because sometimes it's a case of duck and cover and say, well, look, we're going to do it anyway, so we'll just wait for you guys to quieten down.
It is, it's possible, yes, that's exactly what's happening, but we don't know, right? So that duck and cover really involves not talking about it until they say, oh, never mind. So it could go either way, to be honest. And I think we'll see. The rollout it was planned for this month, so it's not like we're going to have a lot of time. So anyway.
And it'll trickle out. Remember, it was targeted release, then monthly release, and then biannular. So, yes, it was a doozy. The other doozy was that data that kind of made its way out through, what was it, early December through to end of December. Anyway, we've got a lot to get through, as we usually find these days. Starting off with a new feature for Office 365 message encryption, updates to enhanced email security, MC 196886. What's to say? It's what have we got? How does this affect me? There are 4 changes to this update. Different email layout for encrypted messages. OME email will use the customer domain. This is good. It's kind of what we pay for.
Right,
and
exactly.
Reduced odds that OME email will be identified as spam and capture non-delivery receipts. So I think there's a lot of things key around having your domain in there, and that certainly helps when it comes to seeing if this is a genuine message. People expect to see the domain that you are sending it from, and if you're sending it daniel@danielglenn.com, then we expect to see it from there, not from .onmicrosoft.com. It's kind of a foreign thing to some.
Well, it is, and I have clients that go above and beyond to try to help their users know when communication is authentic. And this is a big deal when we're in this age of phishing and all of that. It's a really big deal. And so I think knowing that it's authentic and it's from my domain and all that, I think is a big deal. I keep saying that it's a big deal, but organizations. So some of my clients, they do things like they put images at the bottom of every email. And so, and then that image is then communicated to all the users uh, on a cycle, whether,
Mm.
monthly, daily, weekly, whatever, via a different avenue, usually like your intranet. And so if you want to know if this is an authentic email from your company, you go to the intranet and see if the image matches,
Mm.
things like that. So uh, people take extra care in making sure that, especially if you're in sectors where you may be communicating information, you got to make sure that when I click this button, this link that's sent to me, it's authentic. So
That's a great mechanism. It's another dual purposing, sometimes those marketing or internal marketing campaigns you have with the footer. So
mm-hmm.
if it's
That's right.
right, and if yeah, that matches, then everything else is foreign. Everything
Mm-hmm.
else is potentially spam.
Right.
All right, moving along. This announcement: updated feature for Microsoft 365 Usage Analytics Power BI app. First saw that when Jamie Laporte pointed it out. She got it early and started to talk a bit about it on the community, and it was quite a bit of discussion. Now is beginning to arrive in our tenants. For those of us who are not on early release, if there's such a thing. I just wanted to point out here, did I say the message number? I didn't. Sorry, mate. MC202493. I do have it sitting there in one of the tabs to take a look. But first
Mm-hmm.
off, the initial dashboard didn't seem to get a lot of attention lately, did it? Have you been using it at your organization or with your customers?
Yes, yes, but it is limited, and it is. And the initial release was limited, and so I think people got to the point of going, this is great, but it's not giving me everything I need, and so they made improvements.
Mm.
And this is kind of what happens a lot with this new way of doing things. We're not in
Mm.
this 3-year release cycle where Microsoft is releasing these MVPs, these minimal viable kind of products of, oh, I've got a new feature, I'm going to release it. Well, if it doesn't hit, oh, that's good, but it's not great. Well, people need to remember to come back to it
Mm.
after it's improved so that they can get those features. So I think this is one of those that has it. Now, it was a content pack,
Yep.
and the way Power BI does things, a content pack is a way, it's a kind of um, the way they used to. You could still do it, but they really Microsoft wants you using apps now. But a content pack was a way to put together data sources and reports and dashboards and bundle them up and then give it to somebody. And then you really were giving it to them. They could do whatever they wanted to with it. Apps are different. Apps are a way of bundling those things together, but it's more of like a subscribe thing. I'm subscribing to
Ah.
this app. And so when I make changes to the app, it gets reflected to you. With a content pack, that's not the way it worked. So this app model is a great way for them to keep things in this evergreen, being able to update things for us and being able to subscribe. So so the method is changing a little bit here, but same kind of process or thought into this
Mm.
is giving us insight to our usage of Microsoft 365 using Power BI. And it's a great thing. Power BI is an awesome tool, and being able to see our usage analytics, we need to find out how people are using the tools, how they are embracing, adopting our tools, and where we need to focus on to, maybe, hey, we've rolled something out as far as training and providing resources and support, and maybe it's not being used. So maybe we need to
Mm.
keep going or change our methods or whatever. Well, how would you know that? You need to, be looking at the usage of for the products at Microsoft 365.
Yeah, yeah. That initial dashboard, I think the community did find it a little hard to read, I would say. Yeah, it was, as you say, it's a report. So if I'll go back into my usage analytics, that old report there, you had to know how to read something in many different places. It wasn't enough to say, oh, look, I can see that Teams usage is down or Exchange usage is up or vice versa. That you had to piece some of these pieces of data together to tell that story. Now, as you're waiting for this to become available, maybe it is available now, and that it's just that you haven't received the message yet in your message center. As Daniel said, it's not a content pack anymore where you find it in your workspaces, but rather it is in apps, and you will have to add that app and instantiate the data again by grabbing that, where we go, the tenant ID, and then dropping that into to make that report appear with the data. I made the mistake of not dropping that and just going next, and you ended up seeing some demo data there from, it looked like some sanitized Microsoft report, and maybe sort of changed a bit. But yeah, much easier to read. As the community pointed out in the discussions, the data is still the same, it's just framed differently. It's not giving you much in addition to that. Like if our user activity, we can go across and see how Teams is being used, and there's only one in this demo tenant, so it's not great and exciting, but you could go through and see who was using that and how, and yeah, just easier to tell that story, I would say. That's probably
exactly
how I would sum it up. Moving on to Outlook Mobile. New feature, the Outlook mobile app will add rich formatting. That's MC202504. For years we've had just plain text, which sort of comes through, and you can be creative with dashes and commas and stuff like that, but now we've actually got real bullets and real bold. And it might not seem like a big thing, but it does help for people who are on the move and actually probably do more work over their mobiles to be able to structure and format what they want to say from an email.
Exactly. I'm all for feature parity. We've talked about that a lot on the show, and being able to be on the go. The screenshots here are more about iPads, because I think more people think about rich formatting when they're on a bigger device rather than a phone. But still, I think a phone, even sometimes that's all you have, and you need to get something done. Send that email, and you need to be able to, this rich formatting is a way to, I use it more so as a way to call attention to important information, right? If I receive an email that's just all paragraph text, okay, but the lead may get buried, as it were. But things like bulleting and highlighting and those kind of things can be used to draw attention to, here's the main point, I need you to get it. Here's supporting information, but you need to get this point, or whatever. So being able to do it on the phone, I'll most certainly use it.
And I think that's more important on a phone, and thinking of the phone audience too. I wrote about it recently when creating a meeting invite, something as simple as that. We've got to be mindful that there are people in our workforce and our teams that are out and about all the time. They want to see things at a glance. They don't want to lose the detail. So good feature there, and that was MC202504. We have the next one, updated feature, update to Security Compliance Center, link to Admin Center. MC202599. You're shaking your head there, Daniel. Why is that? Is it just sort of like,
it's just okay? I mean, it's great that this is one of those that it's not affecting functionality. It's in that we're not getting new services, not changing. It's just that making sure you understand that when things move around in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, that you know what's going on. So this is good. I'm not saying that this shouldn't be in the Message Center, but it's just one of those, just to kind of keep you aware.
Yep. The link is changing. Goodo. Moving on to something which is probably just as, retirement of Facebook data connector in Excel, MC202636. If you're trying to connect to Facebook data and bringing that into Excel, then this thing's been wound up as well. We've seen over the last few months gradually different pieces of connections to Facebook data, Facebook services are all being wound up. One that I did use occasionally, which was that Facebook connector into Teams to try and bring in posts from a Facebook page. All those sorts of things have been wound up. Yeah, you got any ideas or thoughts here, Daniel?
Not too much. I mean, I think when this was announced, I tried to go back when I saw this message. I was like, okay, who's doing this? I saw some people like a demo kind of thing. They were showing how you could pull in some information. I don't know if anybody doing it. It doesn't mean it's not true, but I don't know of anybody doing it kind of in production. I just don't. I'm sure there's probably some people who are that are more, especially if your organization is public facing and engaging, meaning you're on Facebook or you are trying to keep track of what's going on in Facebook as far as trends and such. So for you, just make sure this is retiring. I don't know of a replacement. So
I would say
maybe
you're
Power
just
BI.
you're just being, maybe Power BI, but I think you're just being pushed towards using the Facebook service to go and get your data. It just means that you don't get to pull in any messages and things that you can quickly respond to. It's more of a proactive go there and search for stuff.
Yep.
We have a rename service administrator to service support administrator, kind of in the same line as updating the link, right? MC202505. Good to know that you are not just a service administrator, but you're a service support administrator. You'll start seeing that name change in various different places, but where it's there we go. They've got it covered. It's not like you have to worry about it breaking any Graph API commands or PowerShell commands. It's all fine. Those commands remain unchanged. It's just a cosmetic thingo. And here. I know you wanted to dive into this one, Daniel. This was an interesting discussion and involved some calming down from our wise ones of the community, saying, "Hey, go back and read this message." Take it away.
Yeah, so this is MC202661, updating classic SharePoint team site homepages to the modern template. It is, so, if you just read that, you go, wait, what? You're going to update all of my classic SharePoint sites homepages to modern? Well, what about all the stuff that I've done, right? All of the... I've changed my page. It's got all these wonderful jQuery, anyway, I won't go into. It's got all this wonderfulness that's on here and
custom web apps maybe.
You're going to break it. So make sure you go back and read this. This is only for the classic team sites, number one. So if you're using classic publishing, that's not what's covered. It's the classic team sites, and they even tell you it's the STS 0 template. And it's where it's not been customized. So what that means is, and now I'm going to tell you what I think it means. They've tried to explain this, but I don't think they've done a great job, because what does customized mean? To me, as a SharePoint practitioner who's developed intranets and everything, when I go in to talk to people and they say, I want this intranet that does this and this, and it's all these wonderful things. And I say, okay, but we want to stay out of the box. So we need to make sure we're not customizing any of the content, right? We're not doing custom master pages, all that kind, those kind of conversations. So when you say customize, to me, that's what it means to me. But I don't think that's what they mean.
I think it means it's the just untouched pages, surely.
Right. I think that's what it means, is that it's not been edited. I may be wrong here, but I think that's what that means. So when you create a SharePoint site, a classic team site, you get this homepage. It has this nice buttons on the top. I can't remember what's
live tile type stuff.
Yeah, hopefully the chat room will. Oh my gosh, there's a name for it. Basically, it gives you links to change the theme and all this stuff. and then there's a news feed, and then documents, and that's it. And what this is saying is if you have not edited that homepage, and things like if you read the message or the docs page, it'll tell you if you've edited the text on the you put in the wiki text, that's customized, and they won't update the page for you. So I think it is edited, not customized. I don't like the customized word. For me, it means something
But you
different.
see, what's driving this, I think, is that if you have gone ahead and created a team site and you're only using it for your document library for your team, Microsoft want you to try and use the rest of SharePoint. And so if you haven't touched that page, then it's going to be shifted to a modern page where it's easier to create content. It's easier to create news and put things on the page. It's just, yeah. So that's the driver behind it, which means, of course, if you haven't changed it, then maybe this will encourage you to do so.
Yes. The thing, so, okay, that's great and everything. Number one, or I don't know if I should say number one because I don't know if I have a number 2 and 3, but do people create sites and then just don't do anything with them? They just add documents and that's it? And if so, they're doing it wrong, I think. That's my personal opinion. They're just doing it wrong if that's all you're doing it for, is just for documents. But anyway, the key here I want to make sure I focus on, Daryl, though, is this is a one-time thing. So what's going to happen is Microsoft's going to go in and it's going to take your classic homepage, rename it, and then create a new homepage for you with the same name called Home.
All right.
Okay. And then that's going to be the modern. So the page that you had before is still going to be there. It's just going to be, I think it's going to be like home parentheses old. I think that's going to be the name of it.
What was it? Underscore Microsoft was here.
Right. So you could go back and actually switch it back if you want. You can go in to your pages and say, I want to make this one my default. Okay, so fine.
Go back to classic.
Yeah. But it is a one-time thing. They are actually, it's not a for now on. Once this rollout is done and you create a new classic team site, guess what? You still have your classic homepage and they're not going to fix it for you anymore. It's just a one-time thing.
Good point.
So that's one thing that hasn't been discussed, and you were talking about discussion on Twitter and et cetera about this. Hey, people, calm down. Another point was, well, yes, but there's even more complexity to this. It's just a one-time sweep. And so it's kind of like you vacuum the carpet, but then people can walk back through and dirty it again.
Roll out the classic carpet.
It's still going to be there. Right. Take your classic shoes off, please.
Yes, your loafers, your boat shoes.
So I would suggest to people, take this as an opportunity to do two things. One, educate users to not use classic team sites. Let's move to the modern. Let's quit using those classic team sites. And second is then put into place the ability for you to go do this yourself. And you can do this. There's a patterns and practices, P&P, PowerShell. There's a method that for you to do exactly what Microsoft's doing here is for you to change pages to modern. So I would suggest doing that two things. One is take this opportunity to not create anymore. And then if some do get created, go ahead and have a method for you to do this in the future, because Microsoft's not going to. At least that's what they're saying.
Eventually we won't see classic, but I can see the struggles and the encouragement of trying to get people towards modern so they can wrap up classic and be on a platform that will allow them to update far easier later on.
Yep.
Moving into something that has also caused a bit of excitement in Teams, feature update app setup policies in Microsoft Teams. This is MC202761. There is some changes to how you're able to pin apps to the app bar in Teams. These are custom apps or out-of-the-box apps, but it's allowing people to customize that experience for themselves. Now remember, the app bar is your left bar down the side, which has got chat, meetings, Teams, and other things that you might have added there too, like shifts, for example. So if you've made a custom app, then you can pin that there and make it far easier to get to. I'm sure there are other things inside those policies, but that's the one thing they're highlighting in this message, to be able to do that. And there we go. We've got like a screenshot.
I mean, this is really cool. I think functionality for Teams, because we're going to see more and more organizations to adopt this modern digital workplace. And Teams is the centerpiece for Microsoft's digital workplace. And so being able to publish apps, and I put air quotes for those that are listening to the podcast, I put air quotes, because it doesn't have to necessarily be a pure mobile or Teams app. This can be an app that's your intranet, for instance. It could be an app. Things like that. You could create an app from Power Apps to do things. So we can go on and on about that. But anyway, this is great to be able to bring that. If I'm supposed to stay in Teams, and that's what I've heard some from Microsoft saying, just stay in Teams and get all your work done. Well, okay, but what about all this other stuff I've got to do? Well, this is the way to bring it in.
I like that example you gave of pinning your intranet, rather than dropping it in as a custom channel each time, rather a tab in a channel, which requires a template or for people to manually do that. Bundling it up as an app is a smart thing.
It really is, because it's there, and you're exactly right. Are people going to be adding this channel every time, or adding it to the channel every time, or like you said, get a template together? This is a simpler method.
And I think that comment about stay in Teams, this probably opens up a whole other discussion that we can get into with the team regarding 365 at some point. But that's where, if people are not in Teams, then they are missing some of those messages. They're not engaged in the chat-based conversation. And sometimes I see that's part of the challenge with user adoption, that if people aren't there, then they're not really seeing the point of being there. If they have to go out to something else, then they do miss those conversations. So yeah, interesting to see. That's another method.
Did we say the number there?
We did. Well, we'll repeat it again.
761. There we go.
761. Yep. The next two around eDiscovery, so we could bundle up the conversation about this.
Let's do it.
There's a dashboard and preview, so this is going to give you, actually I was looking at it just earlier, and additional information. Let's just have a quick look at that.
Yeah, so this one is, we're talking about combining these advanced eDiscovery dashboard and preview, and the advanced eDiscovery tenant reports in preview.
Yep, so they're becoming richer in terms of seeing that data all together. Certainly the reports are easier to glance over, but I think that's the next announcement too, that I guess I don't work in the eDiscovery space, but I did see a lot of sense and use in this. I'll just get back to that one there. The eDiscovery dashboard is MC202803, and then the eDiscovery tenant reports is MC202831. eDiscovery is not my expertise. We actually have someone in the chat room whose expertise is eDiscovery. I think she said woohoo.
Yes, she did say
Joanne Klein.
Joanne Klein. But I know that specifically these tenant reports, I think are a really big deal. And I think I've said really big deal. I'm hoping no one did a drinking game for this episode for me saying really big deal.
Oh, I've got too much coffee in my belly now. Yeah.
I'm almost done with my water. But anyway, it is a wonderful feature.
Yeah, well, the thing I read into it was that it's wrapping up your ability to coordinate eDiscovery cases. So you can get this report across your tenant to see who's working on this case, how many people are accessing it, who's got so many cases underneath them, those sorts of breakdowns for the tenant-wide report.
Right.
I don't see this happening in small to medium businesses, but in large businesses where you do have a compliance and eDiscovery team, this is going to be big news to them to coordinate that and to be able to bring this information together. It's a bit like the having your stand-up and your planner dashboard. You want to be able to look across and see how many people are over-allocated or have too much underneath them that they're working on. I can say, look, I've got 150 cases that I'm trying to pull together. So can you give that one to someone else, please, boss? Finishing off with a message that dropped in late. I just want to say too, it's still interesting to see when these messages turn up. This one for me turned up Sunday night, late Sunday night, which was Saturday for you in the US.
Right.
Messages can appear in the message center at any time. This one, legal hold for private channels. It's a new feature, EMC 202846. There was all this, and there still is some excitement around private channels, most requested feature for teams, but it's the compliance side of it that's catching up. Having legal hold. You could have it across conversations for other areas in the team, but for a small period of time, private channels, you couldn't have those conversations captured in a legal hold. Now
which is a very, I would say, big gap to be able to. I mean, private channels are, for me, really where you would have some conversations that might be a target for legal holds, in that that's where you might have those conversations that are more on the side of I don't want everyone knowing this kind of conversations. That's why it's a private channel, right? You don't want everyone in the team knowing it and having that conversation. Well, those are the kind of things. It's like, well, I need to be able to say from a legal perspective, I've captured that and it can't be deleted. I think this is great fill in. Like I said, a little bit of a hole that was there, but now being filled in.
Yeah, and as Joanne points out too, there's a few clients who are not going forward with private channels for that very reason. It's good to see they've plugged that hole and giving people confidence with continuing with those conversations. That is about it, although I did see something just a little before the show started this today. A tweet there from, I wonder if I can find that. A tweet from Martina Grom, and it was with Steve Nguyen. Let's see if we can get into bookmarks. There we go. And skadoosh. I looked at this and I thought, what's going on here? Is Martina trying her hand at video creation, or we've got like a colourful circle beside Steve's head and a Yammer logo and Year of Yammer and all sorts of funky buttons and bits and pieces? Guess what this is, Dan?
It's YamCam.
YamCam. I'm surprised there's no hashtag there for YamCam. The development around enriching the video experience and video posts within Yammer is coming shortly. As John Moore put it, or he informed me there in the tweet that it is something to do with the acquisition of Flipgrid. Some of these features that you're seeing there that are in the Flipgrid side for education, they're bringing in that the fun stuff around creating video and enriching that experience. So nice to see there. Anything you've noticed over the week or so?
I have not. I think we've covered everything that I noticed. I have not haven't had anything jump out at me.
Cool. Yeah, I mean the big one was that home sites thing. I know that was a hot conversation.
It was.
Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah.
Well, thanks to all for joining us. Thanks for the chat room. Have we got anything in mind for a deep dive for this week for our podcast listeners? You could talk to Joanne about the eDiscovery stuff if she's got some time.
Yeah, we most certainly could. I think the best way for our listeners to find out is to subscribe to our audio podcast, and they will find out.
Yep, and that's at messagecenter.show. You'll find all the various links to different podcast platforms. And thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you again next time. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.